My dad lives in the middle of the Ozark Mountains, and I stay with him for a few weeks to a month every summer. Mom has custody, but she and Dad are on good terms. The house isn't the greatest, but he did make a lot of nice furniture out of local cedar. He's a pretty skilled carpenter and engineer type. He has his own sawmill and wood shop that we, my brother and I, used to make candlesticks, tables and things in when we got older. The house had this little porch that was screened off on the side, 90 degrees away from the door. It had a sliding door, but it's busted, so you have to walk around 20 feet around the house each time you want to go in or out. I was around 11 or 12 at the time, and we had a few days before we go back to Mom's house, and we were excited to get back and play video games. It's nighttime now, and our bedrooms are on the second floor. It's the only window and has a good view of the front yard. I'm trying to fall asleep, but I'm too excited about getting back to Mom's house. Heard my dad and stepmom talking downstairs, which is weird because they usually go to bed around 12. I heard my dad and stepmom talking downstairs, which is weird because they usually go to bed by around 10. I hear the front door open. Okay, this is getting strange. I look out of the window and see Dad walk out with a flashlight and his old double-barreled shotgun. He walks over to the leftmost tree line and shines the light here and there. I think about waking my brother up, but he gets pissy real easy, so I let him sleep. That's when I hear a gunshot and nearly shit myself whipping back over to the window. I see Dad thumb another shell into the breech. Whatever he was doing, he wanted to make sure he had both shots ready. I'm so nervous I hear the clack of the gun as he snaps the breech shut. I see Dad walk backwards all the way to the house, trying to hold the shotgun while holding the flashlight up at the same time. Bear in mind the flashlight was one of those monstrous ones that used a huge lantern battery. He makes it back uneventfully, and now I'm way too wired to fall back asleep. Over the next few days, Dad seems weird and more quiet than usual. He doesn't want to do any of the stuff he normally leaps at doing with us. We left a few days later, and I was too chicken shit to ask him about what happened that night. The next year we visited, though, things were different around the house. As we drive up to the house, we rode up with a half-grown English Mastiff taking up 80% of the back seat. He's friendly enough, although he slobbers everywhere. We finally make it to the house around late afternoon. That's when we see lights everywhere. Floodlights on each corner of the house, lights on posts, Christmas lights strung up outside. Honest to God, watchtowers set up on 3 sides of the house. The sawmill's been moved and a new platform erected on top of the wood shop. Dad's bought 4 or 5 new guns, all high-powered rifles. There's even a concrete bunker. It's Kay's wet dream. I shit you not, my dad's place is all set up like this. It was in the days before camera phones in the early 2000s, and it never occurred to me to take pictures of his shame until now. I ask him, what's all this for? Platforms or deer stands. I think to myself, 4 of them, all within 200 feet of the house? What about the bunker? That's for auto maintenance. Again, I'm thinking, why does the auto maintenance bunker have a roof on it? Makes it useless for that purpose. What about all the lights? Makes the place more cheery, was his response. And the dogs and guns? He replied, keeps weirdos off the property. The way he answered all my questions still bugs me. They sounded 100% rehearsed. When I go to bed that night, I notice there's a new heavy curtain on the window. Why is that there? I asked. My dad says the lights are always on. I eventually fall asleep. Wake up that night to a gunshot. I jump up and look outside. I see Dad on one of the quote-unquote deer stands, working the bolt on one of his new guns. Something is definitely up. Next morning, he's practically vegetative. I ask him about last night. I was trying to get a deer for us to barbecue. I shrug it off and ask if I can go outside to play. Dad thinks for a moment and says yes, but not to go off into the woods. His eyes were super intense when he said the last thing. I go outside and make a beeline for the stand he was on last night. My feet clink as they strike a pile of .30 caliber casings. If you've been doing your math, All the new gear plus all those expensive rounds should be adding up to quite a sum. My dad's job isn't terrible, but all that crap must have been expensive. Fast forward a few days. My dad got a pig from one of his neighbors, the closest one who's at least 5 miles away. We spent the day learning to barbecue properly. That evening, we're all sitting on the screen porch, licking our fingers when Fonzie, the mastiff, starts barking his head off, staring at the ravine behind the house. The dogs on the other side start barking and growling too. My dad starts up, nearly knocking the plate off his lap, and grabs a rifle and stares down at the ravine. He says to my stepmom, "Cat, take the boys inside." That's when I hear the sound of branches snapping from trees near the bunker. We're being flanked. My brother and I are swapping nervous glances, just about pissing ourselves. Without a word, Dad hands Cat Fonzie's leash and takes the rear while she leads us inside. Once inside the greenhouse, it's a straight shot to the door and the 6 of us go in. My dad grabs a flashlight, a different rifle, a bug-out bag filled with ammo, and goes outside with Fonzie. Cat tries to keep us entertained with a stash of old kids' VHS tapes, but neither of us are interested considering what's happening. My brother wants to go out and help Dad. I'm pissing my britches. For about half an hour, it's nothing but gunshots, growling, and the occasional yell from Dad. The window-mounted air conditioning is running and there's a weird smell in the air. Old barbecue, gun smoke, and something absolutely awful. Something that smells like rank horse sweat mixed with old manure, hot death, and stale piss. Cat decides to risk it and opens the door to see what's going on. When she does, the house is immediately flooded with the stench. She shouts out to him and he barks back, "Keep that closed!" She keeps that closed. Eventually, my bodily needs overcome my fear and I walk off to the bathroom. It's set on the wall that faces the ravine. The next bit's going to sound seriously fake, but it's the reason I keep my windows covered to this day. As I'm going, I look up at the bathroom mirror. Something in the reflection is looking back at me. It's illuminated by the light from both inside and outside, so I got a better look at it than I ever would have wanted to. It had a bullet-shaped head like a 9mm round standing upright. It has rough gray-red fur with a forward-facing whorl, you know, that swirly part of your scalp on the back of your head, and what looks like a part on one side. Eyes? Fuck me. The eyes are the absolute worst. Just no thank you. Its face is sort of lopsided, the nose is large and squashed. The mouth hangs open a little. The teeth are kind of tombstone-shaped and cruddy. My bowels pretty much evacuate and I sit, shit, and stare at the thing's reflection, my mind failing to change gears. Then it leans forward and I hear the clunk of its face hitting the glass above my head. This new source of input recalibrates my brain and I realize this thing is right behind me. I start wailing like a banshee and hear the thing gurgle in response from behind me through the window. I flail as I try to run through the bathroom door, trip on my pants which are still around my ankles, and get a nice chunk of wood from the kitchen's shitty particle board floor lodged in my knee. Too scared to feel pain or embarrassment, Cat and my brother come into the kitchen, see me panting and sobbing, sprawled on the floor with my pants at my feet as I'm staring at the bathroom. Cat asks what happened, and as I pull my pants up, Dad comes barging through the door. Guess he heard my screams and thought I was being attacked by some big gurgling monkey dog bastard. He sees me on the floor, bleeding, and immediately starts yelling about how I raised that much racket over a busted knee. I see his fear, relief, and anger, and raise him the hurt and pure terror of a tween that lost a staring contest with a monster. I tell him about the thing I saw, and he tells me and my brother to go upstairs. I don't remember much after that except he went back out, left one of the dogs with us, and Cat helped clean and bandage my knee. The next day, Dad wouldn't let us go outside, but the smell was still in the house. He called our mom up to come to Springfield the next day. That's the halfway meeting point. The pig was gone, about 80 pounds of exquisitely barbecued leftover and the carcass my dad had promised the neighbor in exchange for the pig. One of the dogs was also missing. Dad stayed inside with us that night. I was too afraid to go downstairs to use the bathroom, so Dad gave me a milk bottle and an extra blanket as a privacy tent to take care of business. That's really about it. He took us to Springfield the next day and made us promise not to tell Mom. He might not have shown it very well, but he loved the hell out of us and didn't want her to stop bringing us. I was there again a year or so ago. We barbecued in his new, hand-built smokehouse. We drank and shot the shit, but the second I brought up the incident I've been posting about, it killed the mood instantly. All he said was, "We haven't been getting any trouble for the last few years," and we went back to drinking. It's worth mentioning, though, that there's another new addition to his place. A concrete slab a ways past the trees in the back of the house. It's not raised off the ground, and it's also not very cleanly laid out. It's about 5 feet wide, 6 or 7 feet long. And if you kick the dirt around it, you dig up a thick layer of black shit like soot. Now, I'm not saying that he managed to kill one of those things, burn its corpse in a pit and bury it all under concrete, but if he did, I hope it was the big gurgly bastard.